You have been straining the mind, tightening the will, convincing yourself that if you think harder, visualize longer, affirm louder, then at last it will arrive. And yet the more you try, the farther it seems to go. Tonight, I invite you to stop, not to give up, but to cease effort, for the greatest secret you will ever uncover is this: what you are seeking is not approaching you. It is not on its way. It is not delayed. It is not withheld. It is already yours. The struggle itself is the only barrier. The moment you try to manifest, you confess that you do not possess. The moment you chase, you declare separation. And life, being the faithful mirror it is, reflects back exactly that assumption: lack. Understand this deeply. Life never responds to what you want. It responds to what you are conscious of being. You are not here to make something happen. You are here to awaken to what has already happened in consciousness. Everything that appears in your world was first accepted within, not accepted intellectually, not repeated mechanically, but accepted as a natural state of being. You did not strain to become the person you are today. You did not force your name, your age, your identity. You simply know them. And because you know them, the world confirms them. Manifestation works the same way. The reason effort feels exhausting is because it contradicts truth. Truth is effortless. Truth is natural. Truth is calm. But when you know something is yours, you do not pursue it. You rest, and rest is the womb of creation. The mind that is quiet, satisfied, and inwardly fulfilled is the mind that impresses life. The mind that begs, argues, and strains only impresses more reasons to beg, argue, and strain. Let us look honestly at what you have been doing. You affirm, yet you listen anxiously for results. You visualize, yet you peek outside to see if it worked. You imagine, yet you wonder why it hasn't arrived. Every one of these actions carries a silent confession: I do not have it. And life obeys that confession. Do not condemn yourself for this. You were taught effort. You were taught struggle. You were taught that nothing comes without force. But consciousness does not respond to force. It responds to consent. The moment you consent to an idea, to a state, it clothes itself in form. Consent does not mean excitement. Consent does not mean obsession. Consent means acceptance. Acceptance feels ordinary. It feels almost boring. It feels natural. When you finally accept that something is yours, you stop talking about it. You stop convincing. You stop asking questions. You move on. And that is when it appears. You see, manifestation is not about getting. It is about being. You are not here to attract anything. You are here to occupy a state. The world you see is not a cause. It is an effect. It has no power of its own. It only rearranges itself to echo your inner conviction. If you are convinced that something must be earned, it will demand effort. If you are convinced it must take time, it will delay. If you are convinced it is difficult, it will resist. Not because life is cruel, but because life is precise. It mirrors assumptions without judgment. Now listen carefully, because this is where freedom begins. The moment you decide that your desire is already fulfilled in consciousness, the struggle ends, the chase ends, the anxiety dissolves. You may still act, but your action will be inspired, not desperate. You may still move, but your movement will be calm, not frantic. Effort will be replaced by flow. Do not ask how it will happen. How is not your responsibility. How belongs to the deeper intelligence that governs all form. When you attempt to control the how, you confess doubt, and doubt fractures the state. Your only responsibility is to assume the feeling of already being. Not trying to be, not becoming, being. The moment you feel the relief of completion, the work is done. Relief is the signal. Peace is the sign. Satisfaction is the seal. If you are still tense, you are still trying. If you are still watching the clock, you are still waiting. If you are still checking the world, you are still begging. Let go. You are not abandoning your desire. You are claiming it. The farmer does not dig up the seed every morning to see if it is growing. He plants it and walks away, confident in the unseen process. Your imagination is the soil. Your assumption is the seed. Your faith is the letting alone. Faith is not belief in possibility. Faith is loyalty to the unseen fact. The unseen fact is that consciousness creates reality. And you are consciousness. You do not need permission. You do not need proof. You do not need signs. Signs follow, they do not precede. When you know something is yours, you do not require reassurance. You carry certainty quietly. That quiet certainty is power. This is why force never works. Force screams insecurity. Stillness whispers authority. The world listens to whispers. You may ask, but how do I stop trying? You stop by realizing that trying was never required. The moment you recognize that imagination is the creative act, you relax. You understand that the moment you experienced it inwardly, it was done. The outer world is simply slower to echo. Time is not a delay, it is a courtesy. It allows you to adjust, to grow familiar with the new state. If everything appeared instantly, you would be overwhelmed. So life unfolds gently, faithfully, inevitably. Do not confuse inevitability with effort. A river does not strain to reach the ocean. It flows. The ocean does not rush to meet the river. It allows. Be like the river inwardly. Be like the ocean in trust. When doubts arise, and they will, do not fight them. Fighting grants them importance. Simply return to the knowing. Say inwardly, it is done, not angrily, not desperately, calmly. The calmness is the proof. Your feeling is the secret, not emotion, but feeling of fact. There is a difference between excitement and conviction. Excitement fades. Conviction remains. You do not wake every morning excited that your name is still your name. You are simply convinced. That is the state you seek. Once you occupy it, you will notice something beautiful. You will stop talking about manifestation altogether. You will stop consuming techniques. You will stop asking others for validation. Because you will know. And knowing is silence. Life will begin to surprise you. Not because you forced it, but because opportunities will appear without announcement. People will move naturally. Circumstances will rearrange themselves in ways you could not have planned, and you will realize that nothing was missing except your permission to receive. This is why effort delays. Effort assumes resistance, but life offers none. Unless you assume it, you were never meant to wrestle reality into submission. You were meant to select a state and rest within it. The moment you rest, creation accelerates. Look back honestly at your own life. Everything significant came when you stopped chasing it. Friendships formed when you were simply being yourself. Ideas arrived when you were relaxed. Solutions appeared when you stopped forcing the mind. This is not coincidence. This is law. The inner world governs the outer, not through struggle, but through identity. Ask yourself now, not what you want, but who you would be if it were already true. How would you breathe? How would you think? How would you move through the day? You would not be tense. You would not be watching. You would not be rehearsing affirmations out of fear. You would be present. Presence is the greatest sign of possession. When you truly own something inwardly, your attention returns to life itself. You enjoy the moment. You engage naturally. You are no longer split between now and some imagined future. The future collapses into the present when the state is accepted. This is why imagination must feel real, not dramatic. Dramatic scenes are often compensations for doubt. Simplicity is the mark of belief. A single quiet moment of acceptance outweighs hours of strained visualization. You need not repeat it endlessly. Repetition is only useful until conviction is reached. Once reached, repetition becomes noise, and noise drowns the still voice of certainty. Do not ask yourself whether you are doing it right. That question itself reveals effort. Instead, notice how you feel when you stop trying altogether. Notice the subtle relief. Notice the ease. That ease is alignment. You may fear that if you stop trying, nothing will happen. But nothing happens because you keep trying. Trying keeps you anchored to the old state. Creation requires abandonment, not of desire, but of resistance. Resistance often disguises itself as discipline, techniques, and endless mental work. but discipline without trust. T is fear in uniform. Trust is enough. Trust does not mean blind optimism. It means loyalty to the inner act. Once you have assumed you have done your part, you are not meant to babysit the manifestation. Life knows how to grow seeds. It has been doing so long before you learned words like manifestation and assumption. Your only task is to stop interrupting. Every time you check, you dig. Every time you doubt, you uproot. Every time you complain, you cancel. Instead, live. Live as though the question has already been answered. If you desire abundance, stop negotiating with life. Carry yourself as one who expects ease, not arrogance, expectation. If you desire love, stop preparing for disappointment. Move as one who is familiar with being chosen. If you desire peace, stop fighting the mind. Peace arrives when the war ends. You cannot outthink your way into fulfillment. You must outgrow the belief that struggle is required. The state you occupy today is the prophecy of tomorrow. Not your wishes, not your affirmations, your state. States are not reached by force. They are entered by consent. Consent is quiet. It feels like of course. It feels like naturally. It feels like this is normal for me. The moment something feels normal internally, the world has no choice but to normalize it externally. This is why envy reveals desire. You only envy what you secretly believe is possible for you. Turn envy into assumption. Say inwardly, that is a reflection of my own state. And relax. You do not need to impress life. Life is impressed only by conviction. Conviction does not argue. It does not persuade. It does not rush. It simply is. Let the mind be still long enough to feel ownership. Once ownership is felt, the need to manifest disappears. And when the need disappears, manifestation begins. Continue generating without concluded paragraph. You will notice that when you no longer need it to happen, it starts happening. Not because you stopped caring, but because you stopped clinging. Clinging is fear, dressed as desire. Release is confidence, disguised as indifference. Indifference does not mean lack of love. It means lack of doubt. The mind that trusts does not hover. You are never meant to monitor creation. You are meant to experience it. The moment you shift from watcher to participant, life responds. Observe how easily you accept unpleasant states without effort. No one teaches you how to feel worried. No one trains you to expect disappointment. Yet those states appear effortlessly. Why? Because you assume them without resistance. Apply that same naturalness to fulfillment. Do not glorify struggle. Do not romanticize waiting. They are habits, not virtues. The world does not reward effort. It reflects belief. If effort were the key, exhaustion would be enlightenment. Instead, the most fulfilled individuals move lightly. They are not frantic. They are not compulsive. They trust something within themselves. T. Hat does not shout. That something is awareness itself. Awareness does not chase its own expressions. It allows them. The moment you see that you are the source, the urgency dissolves. Urgency is the language of someone who believes power is elsewhere. Power is not elsewhere. Power is the fact that whatever you consistently assume to be true eventually appears as fact. Not immediately, not theatrically, but inevitably. Inevitability does not hurry. You may wonder why others seem to receive without effort. It is not luck. It is familiarity. They are familiar with being supported, familiar with being chosen, familiar with things working out. Familiarity is cultivated by repetition of acceptance, not repetition of words. Each time you return to the feeling of it is done, you deepen the groove. Eventually, the groove becomes your default. Then manifestation is no longer something you do. It is something that happens around you. You will notice that you react differently. Challenges no longer shake you as deeply. Delays do not provoke panic. This is not because nothing matters. It is because you know who you are. Knowing who you are removes the fear of outcomes. Outcomes become expressions, not validations. When identity is secure, reality rearranges without resistance. The moment you stop asking life to prove itself, it does. Proof follows certainty, never precedes it. If you insist on proof first, you remain trapped in cause and effect thinking. But consciousness is the cause. The outer world is only the echo. An echo does not initiate sound. You do. The sound is your assumption. If you whisper doubt, the echo is faint and distorted. If you speak certainty, the echo is clear. If you shout desperation, the echo returns chaos. Choose the tone within. You do not need intensity. You need clarity. Clarity feels settled. You may still have moments of uncertainty. That does not undo the state unless you dwell there. A passing thought has no power. A sustained identity does. Do not judge the mind for wandering. Simply guide it back to knowing, like a hand resting on a compass, not forcing direction, just correcting gently. Gentleness is strength here. Harsh discipline creates inner conflict. Conflict fractures assumption. Assumption thrives in harmony. Harmony is created by agreement between desire and belief. When belief catches up, desire dissolves into being. At that moment, you stop imagining to get, you imagine because it feels natural. Imagination ceases to be a tool and becomes a home. And from that home, life moves effortlessly. You may notice synchronicities. You may notice ease. You may notice that things arrive before you remember wanting them. This is not magic. It is alignment. Alignment is simply the absence of contradiction. When your inner conversation agrees with your desire, reality has no argument. Arguments create delays. Acceptance removes them. The reason you are told to persist is not to force results, but to stabilize identity. Persistence is not repetition through strain. It is loyalty through calm. Remain loyal to the feeling of ownership even when appearances disagree. Appearances are always outdated. They reflect past assumptions. Do not negotiate with them. Do not try to fix them. They will change when the state changes. Reality is obedient, not intelligent. It does not analyze, it reflects. Treat it accordingly. The mirror does not need persuasion. It needs a new image. Change the image within, and the mirror adjusts. This adjustment happens quietly, often when you are not watching. That is why letting go accelerates. Letting go is not forgetting the desire. It is forgetting the absence. Absence is the only enemy, and absence exists only in thought. The moment you stop rehearsing lack, fullness emerges. Fullness feels peaceful. Peace is not emptiness. Peace is completion. Completion requires no commentary. Notice how often you talk about what you want. Talking keeps it alive as a want. Silence allows it to become a fact. This does not mean suppression. It means maturity. A child announces, an adult assumes. Assumption is quiet confidence. Confidence is relaxed attention. Relaxed attention allows life to surprise you, and life loves to surprise those who trust it, not because they deserve more, but because they interfere less. Interference is the habit of effort. Without struggle, without argument, without exhaustion, you are not meant to push the door that is already open. You are meant to notice that it was never closed. The sense of not yet is learned. The sense of already is remembered. When you remember, urgency disappears. Urgency is the shadow of disbelief. Where belief is full, urgency has nowhere to stand. You do not hurry toward what you know is yours. You stroll, and the stroll is not careless. It is confident. Confidence is not loud. It does not announce itself. It does not demand reassurance. It moves quietly, expecting cooperation. The world cooperates with expectation far more readily than with pleading. Pleading says, I am unsure. Expectation says, I am familiar. Life favors familiarity. Whatever feels familiar to you internally becomes the atmosphere. You live in externally. If struggle feels familiar, struggle repeats. If ease feels familiar, ease multiplies. So the question is not, how do I get it? The question is, What feels normal to me? Normal is the doorway. Make the desired state normal in imagination, and reality will follow to maintain consistency. Reality always seeks consistency with consciousness. This is why inner conflict creates outer delay. When part of you assumes yes and part of you prepares for no, life hesitates. Not because it is confused, but because you are divided. Unify. Unity is power. Unity is the quiet agreement within yourself that this is who you are now. Not who you will be, not who you are becoming, who you are. Identity is the creative act. Once identity shifts, behavior follows naturally. Choices adjust without effort. Actions align without force. You do not need to plan every step. Steps appear beneath you as you move. This is not blind faith. It is experiential truth. You have lived this law unconsciously your entire life. You assumed limitations and they appeared. You assumed delays and they stretched. You assumed rejection and it found you. Now you are simply becoming deliberate. Deliberateness does not mean tension. It means awareness. Be aware of what you are claiming as true. Every inner statement is a claim. I hope claims uncertainty. I'm trying claims lack. It's difficult. Claims resistance. Choose your claims carefully, not forcefully, calmly. Calm statements sink deeper. Say inwardly, this is settled, and let that be enough. You do not need to convince emotion. Emotion follows assumption. When the assumption stabilizes, feeling catches up. If you wait to feel confident before assuming, you will wait indefinitely. Assume first, feeling follows. This is why effort backfires. Effort tries to feel before being comes first. You do not feel wealthy to become wealthy. You assume wealth, and feeling follows. You do not feel loved to be loved. You assume love, and feeling follows. Assumption leads, emotion obeys. The moment you accept this order, the struggle collapses. You stop monitoring your feelings. You stop correcting every thought. You rest in the knowing. Thoughts lose power when identity is stable. Passing doubt becomes background noise, not a command. You do not obey every sound you hear. You respond only to what you recognize as authority. Your authority is your chosen state. Remain loyal to it. Loyalty does not require constant attention. It requires refusal to abandon. Abandonment happens when you say it didn't work. But nothing fails except an assumption that is not maintained. Maintenance is not effort, it is preference. You simply prefer the fulfilled state. Preference is gentle. It says, I choose this, and moves on. You do not argue with what you prefer. You live from it. Living from it, Chang. S. Perception. You begin to notice opportunities you once ignored. You hear words differently. You interpret events with less fear. This is not positive thinking. This is identity filtering experience. The same world appears differently to different states. Change the state, and the world reveals a different face. Nothing outside has changed. Everything inside has shifted. This is why the work is inward and brief. The longer you struggle, the more you misunderstand. Understanding simplifies. Simplicity feels like relief. Relief is the signal that the assumption has taken root. When you feel relief, stop. Do not add more techniques. Do not improve the moment. Let it be. Letting be is creative. Creation does not need supervision. Once planted, life takes over, and life moves with an intelligence far greater than your planning mind. That intelligence knows timing, connection, sequence. Your interference only slows it. So step back inwardly. Trust the unseen movement. Trust does not watch. Trust rests. Rest is not passivity. Rest is confidence without tension. From rest, inspired action arises naturally. You will know it because it feels light. Forced action feels heavy. Inspired action feels obvious. Obvious actions do not drain you. They energize you. Energy is another sign of alignment. When you are aligned with your assumption, life feeds you momentum. Momentum does not need pushing. It carries. This is the state where things begin to feel inevitable. Not because you hope, but because you know. Knowing settles the mind. A settled mind does not rush ahead or lag behind. It stays present. Presence is power. In presence, you are not waiting for life to begin. Life is already happening, and what is already happening cannot be delayed. So let this be what you carry with you. Stop asking life to give you what you have not yet dared to claim as yours. Stop trying to move the world and move yourself instead into the quiet certainty of being. The moment you cease effort, you cease resistance. The moment you cease resistance, life rushes in to fill the space. You were never late. You were never unworthy. You were never waiting for permission. You were only forgetting who you are. Assume the state, rest in it, and let the echo catch up. What you seek is not ahead of you, not outside of you, not withheld from you. It is already yours, because the moment you know it, the moment you live from it, the moment you stop trying to make it happen, it has no choice but to appear.